In this video, I will show you how to put together an amortization schedule which you can use to help answer the questions that are in the rest of this project. So the first thing we want to do is go through this little scenario box and put the information and formulas in correctly based on the information that we have in our scenario. So first thing we want to do is put in the house price. So from the information given, the sell price was $112,000. And if you want, you can go ahead and change that format so it is currency, so it's money. Alright, the down payment in the scenario says 10%. So I'm going to put a little formula in here. So I'm going to put equals, and I'm going to click on the home sell price, and then I'm going to times that by 0.10, which represents 10%. And so I can see that as this loads, it's being a little slow. There we go. I can see that the down payment is going to be $11,200. Now the nice thing is, now that I have that as a formula, if I was to change this to say 100,000, it's going to automatically change that cell as well. So that's the nice thing about Excel, is that we can have it be dynamic and we can change numbers and it does all the calculations for us. Now next is the closing costs, and I'm going to let you calculate those on your own, but for this example I'm just going to say that it's $3,000. Again, I'm going to format that as currency. And then the loan amount. So for the loan amount we're going to put in a little equation. I'm going to say equals, and here's how the loan amount would work. I'm going to take the sell price, I'm going to subtract off the down payment, and then I'm going to add on the closing costs. And then I hit enter, and we see that the loan amount will be for about $103,800. For the APR, that's the interest rates. In our scenario, we qualified for 4% interest rate, so I'm going to put that in as 4. For the number of years, it was a 30-year loan, so I'm going to put that in as 30. And now we're ready to calculate the payments, the monthly payments. So this, again, is going to be a formula, and I'm going to type in equals PMT parenthesis, and the first bit of information it wants is the interest rate. So I'm going to click on the APR. And remember, that was the annual interest rates, and we're going to do monthly payments. So I'm going to divide that by 12. And then I do a comma. The next thing it wants is the number of payment periods. So again, it's 30 years, so I'm going to click on 30, but it's 12 payments per year. So I'm going to times that by 12. And that should give us the 360 payments that we'll be making. Alright, and then I'll do a comma. And now it's asking for the present value. The present value is going to be our loan amount. So I will click on that space, and then I'll do a comma. And now it wants the future value. And of course we want the future value to be 0 once we're done. So I type in 0, and then I hit enter, and we see that the loan payment for this scenario is $495.56. Now it's showing up as a negative amount, and if I want to fill out my amortization schedule, I want that value to be positive. So I'm going to click on this, and you can either double click and put a negative in front of the PMT there, or you can click on that and usually there's a little formula bar up above. Either way, you need to put a negative in front and change that to a positive value. I'm going to again mark that as currency. Alright, now for this last box, we want to figure out the total amount that we pay in interest. Now we could add up everything in this interest column, but that's a little tedious. So instead of what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little formula in here. So I'm going to say equals. And so how do we get the total interest? Well, we're going to take the amount of our monthly payment, and we're going to times that by the number of years for our loan, and we're going to times that by 12 because that's a monthly payment. That'll give us the total amount that we pay for the loan, and then I'm going to subtract off the original loan amount, and whatever's left over should be the interest that we paid. So I hit enter, and we see that I pay about $74,655. And again, I'm going to change that to money, and there we have our little scenario box set up. So now I can change whatever I need to in here, and it should, because I have those formulas, it should recalculate stuff. So for example, if my closing costs were only $2,500 instead of $3,000, I hit enter, and we see that the payment goes down and the amount of interest that I would have paid overall goes down. So you'll have to change that number on your own when you do the project. So follow the directions and calculate what that closing cost is. Now let's calculate the interest, principal, and the balance, and do that for the next 360 payments. So remember, to get the interest, I'm going to go equals, and I'm going to take the loan amount, and I'm going to absolute reference that. So remember, you're going to push F4 so that it's always referring to this part right here. Actually, I guess I don't want to do that on this. Scratch that. I'm just going to go ahead and click on that. So the interest is going to equal our original. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change that. So here we go. We're going to go to the balance, and I'm going to say that that equals the loan amount, and then hit enter. And then again, I'm going to change that to money, and we're going to work off of this cell instead of up here. Alright, so now here we go. I'm going to say for the interest, we're going to say equals our loan balance times the interest rate, which is that 4%, which I am going to absolute reference. So if you'll push the F4 key, and then I hit enter. And that was too much. What did I forget? I forgot to divide it by 12. There we go. Now that's more like it. Okay, now the principal, change that to money. The principal is going to equal our payments. So I click on the monthly payment. Again, I'm going to absolute reference this by pushing F4. And then I'm going to subtract off the amount that goes towards interest, and the amount that's left should be the amount that goes towards principal. And then to find the balance at the end of that month, I'm going to say this equals our previous balance minus our principal, and hit enter. And so I see after that first payment I still owe $103,151.16. And I'm going to go ahead and change that so it is formatted as money. And then if I highlight these three cells and double click, it should copy that all down. So as I scroll down to the bottom, when we get to month 360, we should see that that is at 0. So we see that after 360 months, our loan is indeed at 0. Alright, now the nice thing about this is I can make whatever changes I need to. So for example, if I wanted to change the down payment from 10% to 15%, I could simply come up here and type that in as 0.15 instead of 0.10, and I hit enter, and you'll see that it changes the down payment, which changes the loan amount, which changes our monthly payment and the total interest, etc. I could also change the interest rate to say 5%, changes our monthly payment and our total interest. I could also change the term of the loan from 30 years to 15 years, and you see that the monthly payment goes up, the total interest goes down, etc. So now if you've got this all set up correctly, it should be dynamic, and you should be able to use it to answer the questions that are in the project.